Hi, this is Taryn Grome, editor of Pharma Voice. We met with numerous inspirational thought leaders at this year's DIA annual conference as part of our Editors Take video series. I hope you enjoyed this discussion.
In this episode, we have a talk with Peter Benton, President and Chief Operating Officer, Worldwide Clinical Trials. What should a biotech startup or small pharma company consider when seeking a CRO partner?
That's a great question. I think it's such a competitive landscape. There's so many different CROs out there. There's so many different technology players out there. There's a lot of different opinions and viewpoints. I think what a small biotech pharma company needs to look at is, you've got to have that global scale. You need to be big enough that you could actually handle the workload depending on the size of the study and the global nature of that. But I think you've also got to be small enough to care, right? You've got to really understand, for a large pharmaceutical company, they have a lot of drugs, they have a lot of programs, they have a lot of combination, therapies they're bringing to market. When you look at a small biotech, they may only have one drug, and the whole, their whole company is based upon that drug, and it's so much more critical to them. Nothing can go wrong with that trial. I think that's what people look for. I think, again, you've got to be big enough to matter, you've got to be small enough to care, and you got to have that therapeutic expertise and become that development partner to them, and not get lost in a larger company.
Has the consolidation of Big Pharma resulted in more startup biotech and pharma companies?
Yeah, absolutely. Things are moving really fast. I mean, literally, a compound can be licensed out of a large pharmaceutical company or a small biotech from one to another, and overnight, new companies can exist. And I think the speed at which, drug development assets and potential opportunities are moving around the industry is kind of mind-numbing. It's unbelievable. Drugs that are being licensed in and licensed out and traded between different companies. It's a very fast-moving market, and I think it's exciting. The challenge is, trying to find all those companies and make sure that we can share our expertise and how do we connect with those people. It's the world's changing very, very quickly.
Does demonstrating evidence-based value increase a company's portfolio value?
Yeah, I think really understanding, what you're trying to do in this trial, and understanding, how to get to the label that someone's looking to get to, and how to make an impact in patients' lives, and where you want to position the drug. There's so many things it's such a complicated business already with different regulatory authorities, rules and regulations you have to follow. You've got multiple customers and people you're working with, the site, the investigator, the sponsor themselves. It's all very complicated. And on top of that, 10 years of drug development, and you haven't even started thinking about the questions about reimbursement in healthcare, and how do I get it on a formulary? How do I work with those insurance companies? And we're very fortunate to have a very deep medical and scientific staff. We have the only chief science officer that's ever been the chief science officer of a large insurance company. So, I think that's a unique experience to think about. Should I be looking at trauma cases, in a hospital? Should I look at emergency room visits? Things that you would not normally think about in an individual drug development program, but you've got to think about how you're going to get that onto the formulary, how you're going to get reimbursed, and are people going to want to have it? As Dr. Murphy says, you can have the most beautiful drug in the world that actually makes a difference in patients' lives, a brilliant, beautiful protocol development plan you've executed flawlessly, and if you've missed the things and you didn't do the things the insurance companies need to be able to reimburse it, nobody's going to buy your drug, because a mother's not going to pay $400 when she can pay a $20 copay. Unfortunately, not everybody can afford that.
With so many stakeholders in clinical research, how do we keep the focus on the patient?
Now, I think there's so many different stakeholders. The patient, the investigator. You're trying to make a difference in the patient's lives that have the disease or medical condition that you're trying to treat, but the people that are actually ongoing in the trial. It's a very it's a stressful time. They're in experimental therapy. They have a disease or something that doesn't have a cure. Or they're looking for treatment, right? It's affecting their lives, and so you've got to understand the aspects of their day-to-day life and try and keep them enrolled in the trial and try and make things as easy as possible for them. And building that relationship with the site, both with those patients and the investigators and all the staff. I think that's a serious differentiator. I think as a company, you've got to have really great, CRAs and field personnel that really, build a relationship. They're part of an extended team. And again, the sponsor is the ultimate customer, but, the people you're really dealing with, the real customer is really those patients and investigators at the site.
For more information on this topic, visit our Thought Leaders website.
For more Editors Take videos from the 2015 DIA Annual Conference, visit www.pharmavoice.com. Thanks for joining us.